The weather is about to change a lot over the next few days, as there is going to be some more severe weather for parts of the country, while other parts of the country are going to deal with much warmer temperatures than usual. Now, there will likely be a couple more big severe weather events before May is over, so in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you can expect for severe weather over the next few days, and then break down when those next big storms could be in the forecast here in the United States. We are going to go day by day, beginning with today's severe weather threat. And right now, this is the infrared imagery from earlier this morning. Notice the large complex of showers and thunderstorms that is moving towards Florida. This is all due from an MCS that we saw last night that brought damaging winds upwards of 80 miles per hour to parts of Louisiana. We even saw a couple of tornadoes back over near Westlake and near Lake Charles, Louisiana yesterday on our live stream, which really got crazy, by the way. We had some crazy live shots of that storm activity as it moved through Louisiana. The good news is that this MCS overall did weaken as it moved out of Louisiana and into the Gulf of Mexico, but we are still going to deal with a few more severe storms over the morning hours across Florida and Georgia, which some of that could be ongoing by the time that you're watching this forecast. A lot of this is to blame from this low pressure system that is sitting back over in Missouri, and we also got a lot of moisture down near the Gulf in addition to a ton of instability. So we just have a very favorable environment today for more severe storms to move right into Florida. In addition to that, some showers and thunderstorm activity has been ongoing back up in New England and up and down the East Coast really for the last 12 to 24 hours, but overall pretty typical springtime storms, nothing too out of the ordinary there. And then back over in the northern and central plains and through the Rocky Mountains, we have a lot of cloud cover kind of all over the place from last night, and that cloud cover has actually been from a few showers and thunderstorms that we had. As far north as areas like Alberta, Canada, we actually had a severe thunderstorm watch up there yesterday, and that was due to the fact that we had some severe weather. So it's been a pretty active last 24 hours across most of the United States, but what's exactly ahead? Because we do still have the chance for at least some severe weather over the next couple of days, and today we still do have a risk for severe weather. In addition to that, we actually have 3 different areas that we're watching for today. All relatively low risks, but the main concern is going to be in Florida, where there is a slight risk, which includes parts of Orlando, Florida, Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, Tampa, back into even areas in southeastern Georgia, where there could be a few storms producing the threat for damaging winds up to 70 to 75 miles per hour, and maybe even a couple of tornadoes. And then as we go into the afternoon, that threat of severe weather will exist anywhere from Indiana back into even the Dixie Alley for areas like Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama, where a few isolated storms will fire up during the afternoon with some hail and damaging winds as well. I might actually go storm chasing for this, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. I might upload some photos here on our YouTube page, or I might go live for a little bit. We'll see. I actually might go chasing on this, so again, make sure you're staying tuned to the channel. Further down to the south, we also have a marginal threat that goes back through south central Florida. And then our other area is back over in Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Kansas, where isolated hail and wind are possible. And then another small marginal threat back over in Texas, where it's not going to be super duper concerning. And here's that wind threat, which just is basically a resemblance of the overall marginal and slight risk of severe weather that we have. And the only tornado risk for today will be across parts of even the Ohio Valley and Dixie Alley, and back into Florida, where the main corridor for tornadoes will be over the next few hours. Now, with all that being said, I don't really expect anything too crazy today. It's going to be really just isolated, brief, and weak tornadoes, and that should really be about it. Wouldn't rule out something on the stronger side of things out of this complex of storms this morning, which this is what it looks like right about now when you're watching this forecast, if you're watching it right when it comes out. Some showers and thunderstorms continuing through Florida this morning. By lunchtime, those storms are moving towards Gainesville in a cluster. Any sort of storms in here will be mainly a damaging wind risk, but we might see an isolated tornado or two. And then by the time we get to lunchtime, storms will be ongoing from Jacksonville back down near Tampa, and by 1 o'clock, those storms moving through Daytona Beach and Orlando, and we're done after 2 o'clock with maybe some isolated storms in the late afternoon and evening from any sort of sea breeze activity that happens, but it should be a relatively low risk. And then back over in Georgia and South Carolina, there are some storms this morning, but it's relatively not going to be that severe. This afternoon is when we're watching out for some pop-up showers and thunderstorms, and again, this is ordinary springtime and even summertime storms. Overall, the majority of these storms are just going to be isolated hail and wind, maybe a brief tornado, but again, just nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary overall. By the time we go into Wacky Weather Wednesday, things do really kind of simmer down at least a little bit for most of the country. The East Coast is where we're watching just for a couple more isolated severe weather events. Again, very typical for spring and summer. Areas in the Great Plains, though, might deal with a slightly more elevated risk for some hail, wind, and even perhaps maybe an isolated tornado or two. So be staying weather aware there if you're in those areas. Now, as we go into the long term, things do get a little bit more interesting here across the United States. And to look at this interesting pattern that we're going to be going into, we're going to look at the jet stream, which gives us an idea of the weather patterns that are happening across the United States. And right now, we do have a low pressure system that's back over in the southeast. That's what's responsible for the severe weather threat back down in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. Again, not really a super organized threat for severe weather there. But as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, things do start to ramp up just a little bit. We are going to have some combining air masses. And what I mean by that is that we're going to get some of the Pacific Ocean moisture in addition to some of the colder air out of Canada that's going to kind of collide as we go into Thursday and Friday, which will produce the threat for at least some sort of isolated threat for severe weather for both Thursday and as well as on Friday. Now, overall, I'm not expecting anything too significant on Thursday, but Friday might get a little bit more interesting. Overall, the jet stream does not look super impressive, but if we get any sort of low-level disturbance that gets organized, we could see something really develop here, maybe in the Midwest or the Ohio Valley, more maybe like a slight risk for severe weather or something along those lines. Basically, a low to medium risk day for severe weather may exist as we go into Friday. And once we go into the later half of the weekend and as well as into early next week, that one low pressure system that'll move from the central and southern plains back into the southeast will still be producing some rain, but nothing too significant there. And even in the southern plains, by the way, that will not probably be that significant. It would just be isolated wind and hail for most of any severe weather that ends up happening. By the time we go into Sunday into Monday, things kind of quiet down just a little bit, but I do think we are going to have our next big storm sometime next week. So I think this week stays quiet when it comes to significant severe weather events, but I do think sometime maybe mid to late next week, so around May 20th to May 23rd, I think we're going to get a better shot for severe weather at some point next week. Now, the European model can't decide what is going to produce any sort of significant threat. I mean, it's showing 3 different low pressure systems all in different places as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, which is pretty bananas. It even shows one back over near Florida, but that's kind of away from where I'm trying to talk about here. Overall, a lot of vorticity maxima, which just means that we basically have a lot of different areas that, could end up producing severe weather or just showers and storms in general. So overall, a lot of uncertainty next week, but basically anything that comes over from the Rocky Mountains would be a more organized threat for severe weather. Even then, we are still talking about something that is well over a week out from now. So don't be too concerned about this. It is just something that we're looking at over the long term. We will be going into the future radar in just a moment, but I did want to show you the 500 millibar height anomalies. And one thing I did want to point out as we go into Thursday and Friday of this week is that we're basically going to have 2 different cold air masses that are going to collide. We're going to have that moisture from the Pacific Ocean, which I alluded to earlier in the forecast, as well as the cold air coming out of Canada. And this could set up some sort of severe weather event in the central or maybe even southern plains as we go into Thursday. And even as we go into Friday, we could get something going back over in the Midwest or Ohio Valley. It doesn't seem as if there's going to be anything super organized here, like any sort of big severe weather event, but we might see some sort of low to medium severe weather threat. So that'll be something to watch for as we go into Thursday and as well as into Friday. Now, I do want to mention more about this future radar because this really just breaks everything down into one piece here. I was kind of going in detail about everything, so let's kind of break this down more into detail for you just with the general future radar. For the rest of today, showers and storms continue in the southeast. The northern plains will be a little bit active today with a few more isolated showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. A few severe storms possible back over in the central plains as we go into Wednesday morning. A few exiting showers and storms will continue back over on the east coast. And then once we go into Wednesday afternoon, a better shot for some showers, thunderstorms, and maybe some isolated severe weather will exist primarily in Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas, with maybe a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms in the northern plains. And that exiting low pressure system will continue to bring some showers across the east coast. By the time we go into Thursday, storms will continue to really pop off across Texas, but even some showers and thunderstorms possible in the Midwest. Those 2 air masses kind of collide there on Thursday and Friday, so that'll produce that threat again for some severe weather back over in the central and southern plains. By the time we go into late Friday, showers and storms continue from the Ohio Valley back into the southeast, where an upper level disturbance will try to bring some more showers and thunderstorms. And then by the time we go into Saturday, I do think things will stay active in the southeast. Overall, the areas back over north of the Midwest will also probably stay pretty active, but I don't see any major significant severe weather event. We kind of alluded to this a few forecasts ago where there might be some sort of severe weather event in the Midwest or Ohio Valley on Friday or Saturday. There could still be something. It just doesn't look as significant as what it once did look like. So overall, overall, things don't look too bad on Friday or even Saturday, and then by the time we go into Sunday into Monday, things become relatively uncertain, but I do think it'll stay active in the northern tier of the United States and less active in the southern tier, which will kind of change things up a little bit since it's just been so active in the southern tier over the last really 48 hours. And then as we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, we might get some sort of large-scale trough, but again, anything really beyond Monday of next week is just highly uncertain at this point. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel down below, and just a heads up, I will be on a golfing trip starting today, going all the way probably through Sunday or Monday of next week, so live stream's gonna be a little bit limited on the channel, but we will still have videos as normal, so make sure you subscribe to the channel.